An entitled Karen tries to get me fired after I refused to allow her to return items to our store that she had owned for literally over 3 years. Things got so bad that she even said she was going to sue us, all because of the way that I had treated her. And I'm honestly still blown away by this entitled Karen. Here's what happened. Years ago, I did retail customer service over the phone for a high-end retail company, the kind that sells single chairs for thousands of dollars. They have multiple brands they own, and our call center took calls for all of them. And this call regards their kids and teen brands. This woman calls in wanting to initiate a return, and 3 years ago, she bought a complete bedroom set from one of our kids' brands. She got bed, linen, tables, dressers, curtains, literally everything. It was not uncommon for people to call in and literally order an entire page out of our catalog. We had websites, but still sent out monthly catalogs as well. Rich people still like the catalogs, and the older generation would still place phone orders. She had bought the complete bedroom for her son, but now, 3 years later, he was too big for all the furniture. She wanted to return everything that she bought for store credit and use that credit to buy all new items from our teen brands. Well, I politely advised her that we do have a 30-day return policy, and 3 years is far too outside that window for me to make any exceptions. Well, when I said that, this is when she threw an absolute temper tantrum. She started complaining about how she's been a customer for so long, and how dare I treat her this way. I then offered to give her a 10% discount if she wanted to place an order with me over the phone, and I could do that much without asking a supervisor, but that was still not good enough. She begins to demand that we send someone to her home to disassemble the furniture, pack all the items up, and take them back to the warehouse. She also wanted me to give her the store credit for the full value of the return right then and there over the phone, and give her a 25% discount on the new purchase because of how horribly I treated her by trying to refuse her return. So I tried to explain that she purchased the items from us, they were not leased or rented, and that 3 years was far beyond any reasonable exceptions for a 30-day return window. I suggested that she sell the items secondhand online, or even just have like a garage sale, but she went into a fit of rage. She started name-calling and making threats of lawsuit. Now, at this point, there is nothing I can do to make this woman happy, and I know my supervisor and even her boss won't meet any of this lady's demands. I hand her over to my supervisor, who still refused the return, and upped the discount offer to over 20%. Well, she never got the return for her stuff, but did place a new order with my supervisor with a 20% discount. And of course, she gave me a nasty review on the survey that she was automatically sent after our phone call. Sadly, the company I worked for cards nothing about logic and still held the bogus negative survey against me. My supervisor even admitted that there was nothing that I had the power to do to make that customer happy, but there must have been something more I could have said to make her happy. But of course, my supervisor couldn't articulate what that would be, because that entitled Karen truly was just a miserable person. Wow, that is so unfair. Here you are trying to deal with some irrational human being, and you get blamed for something that absolutely is out of your control. Like, this lady really called up and was like, oh, I want to return items that we've used for 3 years. Also, give me a discount, and if you don't, I'm gonna get you fired. Like, what is happening right now? This is so crazy to me. Like, she went from 0 to 100, and in my eyes, that's like a clear indication that she's clearly trying to work the system. She knows she's not gonna be able to return these stupid items from 3 years ago, and unfortunately, you're the person she's gonna blame for that not happening. And it really just sucks that most customer service interactions really do end up like this. You have a spineless supervisor like the one you had to deal with, who was like, well, you could have done more, while also like not doing anything to advocate for you. And you have a customer who's blaming you for the 30-day return policy. It's like, lady, I just work here. I have nothing to do with that. The fact that she painted you as some horrible person and that you treated her horribly when you had nothing to do with her stupid decisions is absolutely baffling to me. So truly, I'm so sorry that you had to deal with this, because that entitled Karen was completely out of line. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for ditching a wedding that I was the maid of honor for after I found out that the bride and groom were trying to set me up with the best man? But despite the fact that I had a long-term boyfriend and these people were acting insane, I'm still being blamed and treated as if I left for no reason. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was supposed to be the maid of honor at a wedding a few weeks ago, but I ended up just leaving and going home to my boyfriend of 6 years after the bride and groom tried to set me up with the best man. Now, for a bit of context, when my friend got engaged last year, I was excited for her, and even more excited when she asked me to be the maid of honor. As invites went out though, she asked me to not bring my boyfriend to the wedding. Now, I was really upset about that, but my boyfriend talked me down, telling me that weddings were expensive expensive, and they were probably trying to keep the guest list down, and they didn't really know him, so it would be fine for me to go without him. That made sense to me, so I didn't say or do anything after that, and just continued with helping as I could as the maid of honor. Nothing else really concerning happened again until a couple days before the wedding. The bride asked me to give the best man a ride to and from the wedding, which was about a 4-hour drive. Now, I just thought it was part of it as he was a veteran and had his own issues surrounding that, so I gave him a ride up to the Airbnb that we were staying at before the wedding. The whole time he tried to make conversation that was just weird to me and was just not into it, and just trying my best to be nice to him. At the Airbnb with everyone, I immediately noticed that things were off. All of the other bridesmaids had their boyfriends there, and things were really awkward when I found out I was in a room with the best man. The next day before the rehearsal dinner, the bride and groom cornered me in a room to say that the best man was an incredible guy, and that I was blowing him off without really giving him a chance. But I told them, well, of course not, because I have a serious long-term boyfriend, which you guys specifically told me not to bring. It was then that the bride cut in and told me, well, that really isn't that serious since he hasn't proposed in so long. Well, I argued back that we were both still in school, and that's the reason why. We continued arguing for just a little while before I finally just said forget it and that I'm going home. I got called all sorts of awful names going out of the room, but I ended up packing up my stuff and then I left. I got a lot of calls on the way home, which I ignored until my boyfriend called. Apparently, the bride called him and told him I just left for no reason, and he called to check in on me. But I told him everything that had just happened, and he was kind of dumbstruck by all of it. Anyways, after the wedding, I've had the bride, the groom, and a lot of their friends call or message me telling me how horrible of a person I was for just leaving the night before the wedding for no reason, and none of which were receptive to my side of things, and it's starting to worry me that maybe I overreacted by just leaving like that. So am I the jerk in this situation for leaving early? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. This is insane. The bride, the groom, literally anybody who's trying to be like, oh, why did you leave for no reason? All of them are gaslighting you, and every single one of them are horrible people. Because the bride and groom knew that you had a boyfriend. They knew you had a boyfriend, and they still made you bring this guy to the wedding and also try to have you room with him. Like, that is crazy. Just because your boyfriend hasn't proposed to you doesn't mean that you're somehow available to get set up with the best man. And also, it's incredibly creepy. Like, they literally set you up and you had to drive for 4 hours with this guy. Why on earth would they feel like they can ruin your relationship? Also that they can, like, I don't know, set you up with this guy that you've never met before. And what were they expecting with you guys rooming together? Like, seriously, this is so bizarre, it's not even funny. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation, and you didn't do anything wrong. In fact, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing, because what they did crossed a serious line and an obvious boundary that you would expect them to try and keep. Because for them to set you up like that is incredibly toxic and very manipulative. Am I the jerk for getting a babysitter? All because my mom was keeping my daughter from going to a daycare. Because right now I'm still very pissed off at my mom, while she's also supposedly pissed off at me for keeping my daughter away from her. Here's what happened. So I'm a single mom with a 4-year-old daughter who we will call Sarah. Sarah and I live with my mom. We both work, and Sarah goes to daycare full time. Now, daycare would be about half my income, so I get a subsidy that covers $1,400 out of the $2,000 tuition. The only condition of the subsidy is that she actually has to show up. If she misses too many days, I lose the subsidy. I go to work at 7:30 in the morning, and the daycare opens at 8 o'clock, so my mom would be the one to take Sarah to daycare. Sarah's main teacher is a 21-year-old girl. When I've talked to her, she's always been very animated and very energetic. She's great with kids, and Sarah always comes home saying this teacher brought stickers, she brought juice and bubbles, she did face painting, etc., and always has fun crafts that she did with her teacher. This teacher is her favorite person in the world right now, and Sarah often runs away from my mom to jump on this teacher in the mornings and hides when my mom picks her up because she doesn't want to leave this teacher. Well, my mom started to get jealous that Sarah likes the teacher better than her, so she started keeping her home from daycare on her days off or when she has only 1 to 2 easy clients. And it was then that I found out Sarah missed 5 days over the past 3 weeks. I asked my mom about it, and she told me she wanted Sarah to spend more time with family instead of with teachers. But I told my mom that Sarah needs to be in daycare unless she's sick, or I would lose the subsidy. She was arguing that if Sarah needs to be in daycare, she should be in one with more family values, and not some rich white girl trying to save the poor kids. For reference, the teacher is a girl from a well-off family marrying into another well-off family, and the daycare isn't in the most well-off neighborhood in the first place. She has bins full of clothing for the kids, gave everyone a water bottle with their name on it, has a much nicer nicer classroom than the other teachers, and drives a car worth more than my mom and I combined could make in a year. She's setting up a field trip to the local airport so her fiance can talk to the kids about flying planes, and so that they could also look at his jet. Well, when she tried to say this, I told her that I wouldn't. This is the best daycare that takes this subsidy, and I won't be moving her just because she's jealous. She was still insisting on Sarah either being with family or being in a more family-based daycare, so I got her a babysitter. I dropped her off to my neighbor at 7:30 when I leave for work, and she drops Sarah off at 8:15 on her way to take her kids to school. She only charges me $10 a day, and while I don't love the breakfast that she does give to Sarah, in the end, at least I know she's going to daycare, and I won't lose the subsidy. Well, my mom is now pissed off that I'm keeping Sarah away from her. So am I the jerk for sending Sarah off to a babysitter, all because of the things that my mom did? What should I do? No, you are definitely not in the wrong. What your mom did is absolutely insane. She literally decided, oh wow, I don't like the fact that my granddaughter isn't spending enough time with me. So now she's like, okay, we're gonna ruin your chance of this daycare. I'm gonna keep you home with me. That way you'll like me instead of that teacher. But it's like, what are you talking about? Shouldn't you be excited that this kid has a teacher that she likes? Because chances are later in life, she's not gonna have very good teachers that she's gonna have to deal with. So the fact that the original poster's mom stepped in and was like, no, you're gonna spend time with me. Like, that is so weird, and it completely puts the original poster in jeopardy. Like, they will literally lose that money that they're getting if they don't take their kid to this daycare. So the mom in this story is just completely ruining the entire process. So on that end, I don't blame you in the slightest for getting somebody else to take her to that daycare. Like, if $10 is all it takes a day to make sure that happens, especially compared to what your mom put you through, then in my opinion, that's well worth it. Because what your mom did was completely unacceptable, and it gave you an unnecessary financial risk. Am I the jerk for taking over a family therapy session after my dad and his wife practically forced me and my sister to go to these sessions in the first place? Because right now, they're very upset with me for taking over an entire session and telling them exactly how I feel about our family and the house. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old male, and I'm currently in family therapy with my dad, his wife, my sister, and my 3 step-siblings, ages 10, 9, and 7. This blended family thing is pretty new still, with my dad being remarried for 2 years. My mom passed away, so I only have one home. And I'll be honest, I was never excited or really into the whole blended family thing, but I know that's not my decision. All 3 of my step-siblings have food allergies, and 2 have really bad ones. So the way we eat changed a lot. And this included places we eat at that were part of traditions. For most of my life, we would eat at this local noodle bar in town for the end of the school year, and we would also do this whenever we had some kind of school thing going on, such as a play or a graduation or some kind of report card. But now we're not allowed to go there anymore because of the allergies. Even just with my dad, it's a no-go. We can't bring ice cream into the house anymore because my step-siblings can't eat it, and only my dad and his wife can prepare food, so no more making a sandwich for myself either. Birthdays have also changed. My sister and I can no longer eat our preferred restaurant of choice because of my step-siblings, and we can't bring my favorite dish into the house either. So now it's a place that my step-siblings love and is acceptable for their allergies. For 2 years, Dad has talked about how glad we are to make all these changes and how family is worth it. About 4 months ago, his wife noticed my sister and I weren't engaged with the family in the way she thought we would be. We didn't talk to her about it, but she also noticed that my sister had cut me and her out of some photos of all of us and used just me and her for her room's art wall. So because of all of this, she and Dad decided we needed some family therapy. Since we started about 2 months ago officially, there's been a lot about what the problem is and why we're there, and explaining the problem. And my dad also talked about all the good from a blended family, and he talks about all the changes and about how happy we all are to make them. Well, last week I got so sick of it, and the therapist asked me if I was truly okay with them, and I just went off. I said, no, I'm not. I hate the changes. I stated that it's unfair, that I never said I wanted my step-siblings to celebrate my birthday more than I wanted my favorite foods, that these things were decided for me. I said I never would have made that decision because celebrating with them isn't important to me. I'd rather have a good time with the people that I love and enjoy food that I love instead. And I also said that I hate not being able to make a sandwich or buy snacks after school. I basically went off for the whole session between a rant and answering questions the therapist put to me. Well, my dad is now so mad at me for doing it, and his wife was really upset because her kids heard it. But she was also upset because she accepted on some level that I didn't want this ever. She was also kind of mad that I took up a whole session with my rant. So am I the jerk in this situation for taking over a family therapy? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk because guess what? You didn't want to go to this therapy in the first place. If these people are going to force you into it, well, congratulations, let's have therapy. Let's really talk about what the issues are. And trust me, I completely understand where you're coming from, where you're like, look, I've got no autonomy over my life. I literally can't do anything anymore, and you people are trying to act like this is all okay with me. Because guess what? It's not. Like, this is something that needs to be said. If your dad and the wife really thought this would be like, oh yeah, we're so happy. We're so happy about all these decisions that we've made. Look how happy all the kids are. Like, they're crazy because any therapist worth their weight in gold would look around and instantly be like, nah, something's off. What's really going on here? So no, of course you're not the jerk for taking up a session. And the fact that anyone would be mad at you is so telling that they are absolutely at fault. Like, why would they want a therapy session if they didn't want the truth? Did they think this therapy session would be like, oh yeah, let's convince him that he should be okay with this? Like, it really seems like this was some kind of weird ploy to try and get you on board by using a therapist against you, but I'm so glad that it backfired and you were able to say your piece, because your dad and his wife are completely at fault in this situation, and for them to pretend like this is all just completely okay, in my opinion, is super toxic. Am I the jerk for choosing my extended family over my dad after he gave me the ultimatum that I needed to choose one or the other? Because right now he is very upset, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom passed away when I was 5 years old. I'm a 17-year-old male, and my dad remarried when I was 8 years old and made a blended family with his wife and her 2 kids. Then they had 2 kids together, so I have step-siblings and half-siblings. My mom's family were a big part of my life for the first 6 years, and then my dad and them fought because my dad had met his wife by then, and he didn't like their reaction to the news. Essentially, he wanted to invite them over for my grandparents' yearly family barbecue, and my grandparents didn't want to include them. They told him that they couldn't accept my mom's replacement. He then got mad at them for feeling that's what he's been doing, and he told them they could forget about seeing either of us ever again. He tried to keep me from them, but they filed for grandparents' rights, and my dad's lawyer said that they would win. So he said I could see them once every 3 months for 4 hours, and it was way less than what I was used to, but it didn't stop me from being close to them. He invited them to his wedding, and they didn't show up, and this pissed him off more, and then he got super weird about it, and he suddenly started demanding invites again for his wife's kids when I was invited, and then when my half-siblings were born, he was including them in the attempt to force my family's hands, but they never invited them. They did ask me if I wanted them there, and I said not really, so they didn't change their mind. My dad always complained about them whenever my visits would come around. He really hated that I went, and that my step-siblings and my half-siblings couldn't. He tried to tell me that I should advocate for them to all be included, but I never replied to him because it was easier not to. Once I turned 14 years old, he got worse with that stuff, and he would complain that I was calling and texting them, and that I was keeping in touch more than once every 3 months. He would tell me they hate my siblings, that he didn't want us to have our family, but I told him that didn't upset me or make me mad, and it didn't change that I wanted to see them. The day I went back to school, which was my senior year, my dad told me since I was graduating in May that I would be 18 years old, and he needed to make it clear that I will need to choose, because I can't keep spreading time with people who refuse to include most of my family, and he basically said right then and there that I have to choose my family or them. Well, I told him that them were my family, and I would absolutely choose them. He didn't expect that answer, and he got pissed off, and told me I should always choose siblings over extended family. Then he acted like I hadn't given him an answer, because he told me that when he and his wife throw me a graduation party, I won't be allowed to invite my mom's side of the family. But I told him he doesn't need to throw me one because they would, and that I would make it clear that my choice will be them. My dad told me that isn't how it works, but I told him it is because he gave the ultimatum, and he needs to live with the consequences. He accused me of twisting his words and disrespecting him by throwing that in his face. So I honestly need to know, am I the jerk in this situation for all that's been going on? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because your dad has clearly villainized your entire extended family. He has gone out of his way to try and convince you that they're bad people, while also saying you need to either choose them or us. And based on what you've described and the way he treats you in regards to them, I would choose my extended family all day if I was in your shoes. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because the way your dad acted is honestly completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding dress after she made fun of my body and put me down? Because right now I'm very upset and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I've always had a bit of a rocky relationship with my older sister. She's 26 years old, and we're pretty different in a lot of ways. She's always been super into fashion and makeup, while I'm more laid back and focused focus on school and work. Despite our differences, I thought we were at least civil until recently. My sister is getting married next year, and she's been really excited about finding the perfect wedding dress. Since she's trying to save money for other wedding costs, she asked if I could help pay for her dress as a sisterly gesture. I recently got a decent paying job and was willing to help her out, even though I thought it was a weird request. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and we were at a family gathering, and I was wearing this dress that I felt good in, but I'm not a size 2. Well, out of nowhere, my sister made a snarky comment in front of everyone, saying how brave I was for wearing something so tight. I was embarrassed, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I let it slide. Well, later that night, she made another comment, and this time in private, about how she would never wear something like that unless she lost weight first. And when she said that, I got upset and told her that what she said really hurt my feelings, but she brushed it off, saying that she was just being honest. And now I don't feel like helping her out anymore with the wedding dress. And when I told her this, she flipped out, calling me selfish and petty, and she says that I'm ruining her big day over a joke, and that it's not fair for me to back out when I already agreed to help. My parents say I should just let it go and help her out, since apparently that's what sisters do, but I feel like she's completely crossed a line. So am I the jerk for backing out after she made fun of me? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think what she did was completely inappropriate, and I don't blame you for being like, wait a second, why should I help you out? Because in my opinion, if you're gonna be joking about something, then everybody in the room needs to be laughing. And if the joke is about you and you're not laughing, then guess what? It's not a joke. It's literally them bullying you in a really mean way. And jokes at someone else's expense are not jokes, like that's just you being rude. And your sister absolutely meant those comments too, by the way. You probably already know this, but she's disguising her comments as jokes to try and get away with it. So no, I don't blame you for backing out of that, because if I was in your shoes and I got disrespected in this way, I would have absolutely done the exact same thing. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.